Hello from Pretoria. Is everything all right? People talk, say things.
Hello?
Why didn't you tell me it was out of order? I suppose you think that's funny.
I'm not allowed out the front door.
Who says you weren't?
Them.
Who?
Them.
It was terrible out there. I could hear breathing.
We told you.
Are you worried about the man?
They hate us. That's the truth. They want to kill and torture every one of us. You can see it in their eyes.
Come now, Frederick. Do you dream about unholy things?
I really don't like what's going on here. There's something wrong, and that's a fact.
Wait. What did you dream last night? This manifestation of evil. You must be delivered from evil.
I believe you are quite aware the situation has changed since last we spoke.
The truth is still the truth, and a bargain is still a bargain.
And Mayor Cermak is now deceased.
Yes. What does that have to do with our contract?
I do not recall signing a contract with you, Mr. Allan.
We had a verbal agreement. I'm sure my uncle here will attest to that.
Nathan, please. You're being most rude.
But Dawes reacted just as I knew he would.
Lewis, as a family man, I quite understand your position. As for you, young Mr. Heller, you should not have spoken to the papers of this. It was a breach of confidence.
Nothing was said of our arrangement being a confidential one. Besides which, I was in fact discreet.
How so?
I didn't tell the reporters why I was offered the job at the fair. Void our deal, sir, and I'm going to be put into an embarrassing light. I will have to inform the press of your involvement.
This reeks of blackmail, young man.
It reeks of business. Our arrangement is binding in my view, and if you feel differently, I'll be noisy about it.
Nathan.
I'm not a big wheel like you, General, but us little wheels can get good and goddamn squeaky when we don't get our grease.
My secretary will have contracts ready for you to sign this afternoon at 4. Please return and sign them. Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Observations with Robert Meyer Burnett.
I've heard it said before, like, it was a very smart man named Robert Meyer Burnett who said the currency of our current age is authenticity. And it's so true.
Well, greetings, imagination connoisseurs. Once again, it is I, your Duke of Dope Discourse, your master of fun and wonder, your viceroy of verisimilitude, your sommelier of sci-fi and cinema, your collector friend, your evangelist of the imagination, and the perhaps never to be defined existential Mr. Rogers. That's right. I mean, you've been waiting like you wait for Godot. You've been waiting for me to come back and do a observations, and here I am. I'm coming at you, you imagination connoisseurs, you members of this, the Post-Geek Singularity community. I'm Robcasting at you from the Robservatory. This is Robservations episode number 1022. Now, you know, some people think about March, and they, of course, think about the Ides of March. But I always think about March 22nd. Because March 22nd is the birth of the greatest Canadian who ever lived. And that's, of course, William Shatner. And Canada needs all the help it can get these days, because we're certainly not helping it. But anyway, God love Canada. God love William Shatner. And, you know, William Shatner was my childhood hero. Captain Kirk is still my favorite fictitious hero in all of history. I know some of you think, well, Rob, don't you like somebody more highbrow like Gilgamesh or Beowulf or like the Egyptian or Norse or Roman and Greek gods? No, man, I like Captain James Tiberius Kirk. I get it. He was written by a bunch of different people, created by Gene Roddenberry, a war veteran. Anyway, I love William Shatner. And the thing about William Shatner is, in addition, as I was a child loving William Shatner, as I grew up and came to learn about the man, because remember, actors are not the characters they play. They're people. Shatner never really had an easy time of it. Star Trek, for all intents and purposes, was a failed TV show. It struggled in the ratings because they didn't have demographics back then. And it was never number one. And they were going to cancel it after season 2, but the geeky fans, there was a letter writing campaign that saved it and allowed it to have a season 3, but it was put in a death time slot. And Fred Freiberger became a new producer, and you know, there's some great third season episodes, don't get me wrong. But it wasn't up to the quality of the Gene Roddenberry, Gene Kuhn era. But still, we got those episodes, and I love Star Trek, and I love the animated series. Kudos to Bunny Tail Reacts for not stopping at the original series, TOS, but moving on into the animated series and watching her, all of her reviews has just warmed my heart. And look, when you watch, don't go, Rob, I know why you're watching her. Look, I watch a lot of female reviewers on YouTube, not because I'm some lascivious old man, although I'll cop to that. I will always cop to being a lascivious old man. But when I'm watching females react to Star Trek, trust me, Star Trek is on the menu. They are not. But it's very interesting to see how younger generations, especially younger female audiences, are responding to classic Trek. And what's interesting is seeing how much they respond to classic Trek, and not just the TV shows, but the movies as well. Popcorn in Bed, another interesting channel. And I'm more fascinated by it because when I was growing up, I really didn't have any female friends that watched Star Trek. I had a few, but not many. And certainly I didn't get any analysis. So it's twofold, watching the female response and also watching the younger generation responding. But, you know, Shatner's career was difficult. In the 70s, he had a hard time getting work. He was sort of typecast as Captain Kirk, and it's not exactly like Hollywood looked at him as Laurence Olivier, much as Shatner might wanted to have liked to have been thought of as Laurence Olivier. Probably not even as Christopher Plummer. Shatner never had his Sound of Music, even though they were friends or they knew each other at Stratford. But the thing is, he was a survivor. You know, I mean, there's a great book called Return to Tomorrow that's about the making of Star Trek, the motion picture. But what makes it so special is a reporter was sort of embedded with the production. And remember, before Star Trek, the motion picture had come out, there were Star Trek conventions, but it was a very, very niche thing. So the actors coming back and reprising their roles as these characters on a very expensive motion picture was an amazing thing for them. And listening to some of Shatner's insights at the time is fascinating. And he cites Sean Connery's Bond as an inspiration, for example. But he's reinvented himself. Shatner's become an author. He's become a businessman. He's tried many different business ventures. And, you know, whether he was guest starring on Columbo TV Movies of the Week or he ended up doing Rescue 911, then he did our film, Free Enterprise, Priceline commercials that were a direct result of him doing Free Enterprise. And then, of course, finding himself on The Practice and then on Boston Legal as Denny Crane, where he won 2 Emmy Awards. And then going to space on Jeff Bezos' Blue Origin rocket. I mean, Shatner has been the kind of guy I didn't just admire as a actor in a fictional show that I particularly love, but as a human being that constantly reinvented himself and never sat still. You know, he's a father. He has daughters. He doesn't have a son. He has daughters. He's had multiple wives. You know, there were things when we made Free Enterprise with him and we were going to take him to the Cannes Film Festival. He said, yeah, I'll go, but I want to fly in the Concorde. And by God, we made that happen. So for his birthday, he's a man literally that I worked with him when he was 68 years old. Now he's 94, you know, which is amazing. And since then, I've worked with him a number of times. And it just, he as a performer, as an artist, I admire his work, but I also admire him as a man. And I know a lot of people, it's so funny to me that these days he's sort of fallen from favor for not giving a fuck what he says, which is another reason I love him. But anyway, I just want to say, first of all, happy birthday to William Shatner, a great Canadian, a great human being, a fine actor, a fine entrepreneur, a fine equestrian, and somebody who I've had the pleasure of working with, and I've admired him for my entire life. And to see that he's made it to 94 years young and he's still out there entertaining people, my God, what's not to love. So happy birthday, Bill Shatner. You're the man. That said, I've been doing a lot of thought about this business of entertainment that I've wanted to be in since I was a little kid. And people are always asking me, like, they're asking me lots of things, but was it worth it? I get a lot of that. How come you're not rich? I get a lot of that. And what have you ever done that's really worthy of anything? I get a lot of that, especially on, well, X. And it's interesting because that's a very valid question. But when I was a kid, and I've told people on the show many times, I was 5 years old when I really started percolating in my mind, watching Twilight Zone, watching Star Trek, watching Outer Limits, and starting to watch Sci-Fi Theater on Channel 11 on Sundays. And I started to see different kinds of science fiction movies from around the world, Japanese sci-fi, British sci-fi, even Danish sci-fi if you watched Reptilicus, which I can't really recommend you do, but I kind of liked it. But it's not good. Ooh, it wasn't good. But I liked when it was on because who doesn't love to say Reptilicus? I don't know. Just try it. It just comes out of your mouth. Reptilicus. It just sounds cool. You don't even have to say it like this. But if you just say Reptilicus, it's both cool and stupid at the same time. Kind of like the movie. But anyway, all of the things that I've liked in my life, I still like them now. Like, it hasn't changed. Everything I've ever liked, I still like. You can't say, like, do you don't like this anymore? No. I like everything I liked. To the point of obsession, really. There are people in my life, girls in my life, that I actually, it was funny. I had this girl I've known for a very long time who's very special to me. I don't know if she feels that way about herself, but or how could she? But she said to me once, and this was really interesting. She goes, "Look, you see me in your life as this mythical figure," and I was like, "Well, she's right. I've imbued this person with all of this meaning, but meaningful to me. Like, her existence in my life is a myth. It's like become a story." It's a story that I like to tell or I like to think about. But for her, she actually said, she called herself, it was interesting. She called herself, "I'm just a legal nerd. I just like the practice of law." And I'm just a nerd. And it's funny. It shows, like in my own, it showed me graphically how disconnected I personally can be with the real world. Because my head is in the clouds. It's always been in the clouds. That's why when I saw that, if you want to understand me, the movie that I saw in my life that most spoke to me personally was Amélie. The Fabulous Adventures of Amélie Poulain, if you watch the original French version. And when I watched Amélie, the character of Amélie, I'm like, well, that's kind of me. That's kind of how, I'm not a woman, and I don't, when I say, I don't mean this literally. Everybody today, nobody understands metaphor, but the kind, like when she looks in the clouds, she doesn't just see clouds. There's always something in the clouds, whether it's a giant teddy bear or something. That's how I look at the clouds, and I always see some shit. That's why I love Elizabeth. She kind of is the same way. We literally bonded. My girlfriend Elizabeth and I bonded because in our online ads, personal ads, we both cited our love of Amélie. And we had a 96% match. So it was really interesting that we both, because she looks at clouds and sees giant stuffed animals. I probably see, Federation starships more than she does, but same kind of thing. So I've liked the same stuff my whole life anyway. And I always wanted to get involved in the movie business. But I didn't want to get involved in the movie business to be a star or to get rich. Although being a star in the movie business helps you get rich. And when I mean star, I don't necessarily mean movie star. I mean anybody like Christopher Nolan, star. Denis Villeneuve, star. Martin Scorsese, star. Quentin Tarantino, star. And they're incredible creators, but their creativity and their star status, which was rightfully earned, has allowed them the power in Hollywood to tell the stories they want to tell. And that's all I've ever wanted to do. And at the same time, though, I was not as probably focused as I should have been because I'm as much a fan and a consumer of all these things as I am somebody who makes it. And like, I have as much fun. So what happened when we made Free Enterprise was it didn't really do well. A company, it was one of their first acquisitions, and they put it in 9 theaters in Los Angeles with no advertising budget behind it. And I knew it was going to fail theatrically. I'd made my dream project with my childhood idol, and I knew the first night it had come out that we were dead in the water. Even though we'd spent the year winning film festivals, I won an award from the Writers Guild, Best New Writer, in 1998. We won both Best New Film and Best New Writer at the AFI Film Festival here in Los Angeles. I got to go to I got to go to Sitges, to the Sitges Film Festival, which is the greatest film festival in the world, to debut the film in Spain. Then we went to France. We were at the Cannes Film Festival, not in the festival, but at the market, and we took William Shatner with us. I mean, it was an amazing thing. And then you've made your movie, which was a feat unto itself, because I heard Nicholas Meyer say it takes 10 years to become an overnight success in Hollywood. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to direct my first movie when I'm 30, 31. That gives me 10 years. And I did that. That was my goal. My one goal, I'm like, I'm going to make a feature film at 31. The problem was I didn't really have anything after that. I figured it would open doors and you were off to the races. But when nothing happened, I went to a lot of meetings, and I met with a lot of people that could not greenlight anything I wanted to do anyway. You meet with these mid-level development executives who were powerless, and I knew far more than they did. So it was a year of annoying meetings that I had to go to, but I played that game. But I still had to work. And I was working at NBC as a producer, editor, making a lot of money. If I was there for the entire year getting what I got paid, that the job of a predator at a network, to give you an example, all I did was cut promos, like tonight on whatever show. Or if they had campaigns, I did the XFL cheerleaders commercials, as everybody knows. That was a $250,000 a year job. Now, there's not a lot of incentive to try and get an independent film off the ground when you're making $250,000, because as many people have heard, Mr. Corbet, who made The Brutalist, and of course Sean Baker, who made Anora, you have articles talking about how they're not making a lot of money. And they're not. If you hear about the ad campaign for Anora, the ad campaign that the Academy pushed to get an Academy Award was $18 million, and Anora only cost $6 million. And of that much money, a director doesn't want to, when you're making a movie, and this was not Sean Baker's first rodeo, and you don't get paid a lot, and you work on a movie for 2 years. So a lot of the time, filmmakers have to moonlight. I heard an amazing story today. I interviewed the costume designer for Anora today. It's going to be on Designing Hollywood. She's worked on like 35 movies, and she came out of the New York theater, and then she moved into motion pictures, and she told me an amazing story. So she tells me that she'd saved up her money, and she's not rich. She lives in an apartment, and they all went to France to the Cannes Film Festival where Anora played and won the Palme d'Or. And then she comes back after it wins. She wasn't there when it won the Palme d'Or, but she saw the movie, went to the premiere in the Grand Palais, and then comes back. And at the time, she was a waitress at a restaurant in New Orleans. She was waiting tables, slinging hash. She had been the costume designer, and she worked on a lot of movies, but she wasn't working then. And then the strikes hit. Everybody was out of work, and she, had a second job, and she was literally a waitress, the costume designer of the Palme d'Or winning Anora. And then what happens? Anora wins multiple Academy Awards, and she was slinging hash. Now, she did Anora. She's got movies coming up. But the entertainment business, her story, it totally resonated with me, because I've kind of been doing the same thing. Like, for instance, yesterday, Film Threat reviewed our movie White Devils that sat on a shelf for a very long time. And Gabe Bologna and our little team that worked, Carlos Del Rios and a couple other people, resurrected this film that was basically going to sit on a shelf forever. And we re-edited the film. We reconceptualized it. We gave it a whole new sound mix, did a lot of work. And the first people that ever saw it, you saw the trailer at the beginning of the show, I sent it to Film Thread. I go, you guys review movies, and I said, they don't give you special treatment because of just your friends. Because if the movie, that doesn't make any sense because the movie speaks for itself. If they like the movie or they don't like the movie, they'll tell you. I don't care. I don't have any sway with somebody to make them like something if they don't like it. And Allan Eng reviewed it. I was very surprised by his review. He gave it 8.5 out of 10. Well, we don't have distribution for this movie. We haven't even shown it to anybody. And will the movie get distribution? Don't know. It's not everybody's cup of tea. As a matter of fact, but we made it. It exists. It's out there, and we will keep it going. And people would say, "Well, Rob, why do you work on stuff if you don't know if it's going to sell or not?" And I'm like, it was never about that for me. It was always about making stuff. I loved making stuff when I was a kid. I love making stuff now. True Noir was not cheap, our audio drama. I'd never made an audio drama before. I had an incredible script by Max Allan Collins, he adapted his book, True Detective, and I was able to make an audio drama and put everything I have into it. And I think of all the things that I've ever made, I've been able to make True Noir exactly the way I wanted to make it. I got the cast I wanted. I edited the audio drama. I directed the audio drama. Sitting here at this table, I've been sitting here for the last 4 months editing the 5 hours of True Noir. Just me, just sitting here by myself. And I basically finished it today. And the funny thing is I feel this huge sense of accomplishment that I finished this project. And I look around, there's nobody in here. I sit back and I'm like, oh man, I've worked on this project since 2023. We conceived of it in August of 2023 that we were going to do it. We went to November. In November of 2023, we went to Chicago and shot a bunch of material and started doing the proof of concept and finished the proof of concept. I had to figure out how we were going to make it. I've never made an audio drama. I needed to know what the workflow was. And Max hadn't even written the script yet. So we did this proof of concept, which you can hear you can find it on the True Noir YouTube page. And we did it. Then we started getting the scripts in. Then I realized I can't just hire my friends. I have to do something different. We have to hire a producer, which I brought on, Christine Cheeks, and treat it like a movie, like I always wanted to. And it became a very serious thing. And our actor Todd Stashwick, who did the proof of concept, he went on. He's doing Marvel's Vision show with Terry Metalis. So we had to basically start from scratch. But the proof of concept was just that. It was a proof of concept. So then we started from scratch, and we got Max's scripts, which weren't written. And then True Noir cut to. I recorded my first voice on May 27th of 2024. Anthony LaPaglia, who was in Sydney, Australia when we recorded him. We got him earlier. We didn't started to do the other voices until June. And it's been a struggle, ever since to get everything done. And it all falls on my shoulders. I mean, I have lots of help, obviously, but if I don't do the work, it's not going to get finished. And it's like, is True Noir going to sell? We did a crowdfunding campaign that didn't even scratch the surface in terms of how much it cost. But now I'm working on the Blu-rays, and the question is, well, why? A lot of people ask, well, why? Are you going to make any money from this? That's everybody's question. Are you going to make any money from this? Well, in my estimation, if we can pay back what it cost, then I've won. I have a YouTube channel. I do other things. I'm on the John Campea show. I do whatever I can to make money, but it all finances what we're doing. And True Noir will have there will be, mark my words, other incarnations of True Noir. There might already be other incarnations of True Noir. I don't know. You never know. But I do it because I love it. And you hope it leads somewhere, but a lot of the time it doesn't. Agent Cody Banks was probably the biggest thing I was involved with. We bought that script, we developed it, we sold it to MGM, but even that turned into a nightmare. and the question is, why keep going? And the answer for me personally is I keep going just because I love it. I love to tell stories. And I'm still as much a fan. All this stuff feeds into keeping me going when things get dark, because the most ludicrous business to get into is Hollywood. And it is more and more ludicrous than it's ever been. The business of Hollywood has become only a business. The studios have no preconceived notions, or there's no art happening at the studios. It is all commerce. It's all IPs. It's all stuff they want to have based on previous material. It's all become money-making because there's a lot more money at stake. You know, it used to be that the studios could gamble on a low-budget movie. A low-budget movie at a motion picture studio now is $90 million. You think they're going to gamble on something at $90 million? No, they're not going to. So the business of Hollywood is stupid. You know, it was really, it annoyed the fuck out of me when you hear about all these DEI initiatives, how the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences is all like, well, we have to make it more accessible to people. I'm like, who doesn't have access to Hollywood? The easiest way to get into any is to make a good movie. If you go out and you make an independent movie and it's good, Hollywood will come knocking on your door and they will exploit the fuck out of you. The problem is, making movies is really, 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 really hard. And if you look at different ethnic groups, like I'm a believer, I want to see stories from around the world. But the funny thing is I've been watching movies from all around the world my entire life. So it's odd to me that people are like, well, we need more Asian representation in cinema. I'm like, the Koreans are out there kicking our asses right now. Whether it's horror, whether it's crime, and the Japanese animation market, you know, or you watch what's going on around the world in there's so much vibrant cinema being made, even in Iran, at least when, you know, the Iranian filmmakers can escape the Islamic fundamentalist, Islamophobe terrorist regimes or whatever. That would be wrong. Not Islamophobic, the Islamists that run Iran. I mean, if they were gone, if like the Islamist regime, if the imams were deposed in Iran, I think Iran would become one of the most vibrant filmmaking centers in the world, which is ironic. But I think it would be. I think the Iranian people, if they were liberated now, it would become a worldwide destination spot and probably have a very vibrant arts community because the people there are starving to make art. And they can't do it, but I'm sure the filmmaking that would come out of a liberated Iran would be amazing. And hopefully I can see it. But, you know, I've been watching movies from around the world. And the thing is, if you look at demographics, how many people from each demographic group are crazy enough to want to go to Hollywood? What's interesting now is it's much easier to do this, to talk on YouTube. Well, before I got a couple articles I want to read about the business and where I'm coming from. But first I want to start with a letter I got 2 days ago from, I hope I pronounce your name right, from Tej, T-E-J, Sengani. Tej Sengani. Dear Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett, I hope this letter finds you well. I'm writing to you as a longtime admirer of your work and insights into the world of cinema. For me, going to the theater as a child was akin to visiting an amusement park. Films like Jurassic Park, Terminator 2 Judgment Day, Hook, Catch Me If You Can, The Boiler Room, that's a pretty good lineup, weren't just movies. They were journeys. Realer than any real-life travel I could have imagined. To this day, the sound of a heavy rainstorm still sends a shiver down my spine, a lingering fear that a T-Rex might be lurking in my backyard like The Lost World, Jurassic Park. A very misunderstood and underrated sequel. Well, if you lived in my head, there really is a Tyrannosaurus Rex in my backyard. There always was. The masterful scores of John Williams, James Horner, and Jerry Goldsmith remain deeply ingrained in my soul. Their themes are time capsules, instantly transporting me back to the wide-eyed wonder of my childhood. And the characters. Geordie LaForge and Scotty from Star Trek The Next Generation ignited a passion for technology within me. I mean, it's Geordie LaForge and Scotty from Star Trek and Star Trek The Next Generation. Ignited a passion for technology within me, ultimately leading me to pursue an electrical engineering degree. Smart man. Actors like Jason Alexander, Jeff Goldblum, Joe Pesci, Justin Long, and Will Friedle from Boy Meets World inspired me to chase my dream of my own, acting. For nearly a decade, I poured my heart and soul into the craft. However, as with many dreams, mine has faded. The passion that once burned so brightly has dimmed. I've decided to pursue a new path, joining the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. Amen. It feels like a significant departure, but the dream of working with the likes of Spielberg, Soderbergh, Fincher, and Larry David now seems impossibly distant. Perhaps I'll channel my inner T-1000 persona when dealing with the criminals in the near future. Haha. It's hard not to feel a sense of disillusionment with the current state of Hollywood. I know. The corporate greed and entertainment conglomerates seem to have eroded the very essence of filmmaking. Films are no longer cherished as art. They are merely content. You're absolutely right. A word that feels so sterile and devoid of meaning. It's a sentiment that I know you understand. Like Obi-Wan Kenobi failing Anakin, I feel as though I've failed my own dream. The magic of cinema that once fueled my aspirations seems to have lost its luster, at least for me. Thank you, Mr. Burnett, for your dedication to preserving the legacy of great filmmaking. Your passion has undoubtedly inspired countless others, even if one of them has taken a different road. Sincerely, your friend from Toronto, Tej Sangani. You know, I read that letter and it resonated with me. But the thing is, you know, this business is not for the faint of heart. And I understand where you're at. I mean, I've been in Hollywood. This year I moved here in 1988. That might seem like, why aren't you dead yet? But I moved here in 1988 and I got my first job. I was finishing up school. I got my first job in 89 as a production assistant on Leatherface, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3 for New Line Cinema. Now, the thing was, I would consider myself a student of the film business. I was always interested I always saw motion pictures as both the magic of the finished product, but I was also very interested in the process of making film. Now, I was never an actor guy. I didn't have, like, I knew actors who were in certain movies, but I didn't identify with the actors. I identified with the people behind the camera. My first hero was George Pal. He was the first person I knew because George Pal produced War of the Worlds, Conquest of Space, When Worlds Collide. He was going to produce Logan's Run, Doc Savage, Man of Bronze, The Time Machine. You know, I was a fan of those movies because they were some of the, at the time, pre-Star Wars, some of the best science fiction movies that had ever been made, and I love them, and his name was prominent, and I've said this before on the show, and his name was George Pal, and I wanted him to be mine. Pal, that is. And so I was very interested in then people like Ray Harryhausen, whose name I remembered, or Willis O'Brien, who worked on stop-motion animators, and people, Star Trek, the people behind, like Wah Chang, designers like that, Matt Jeffries, who designed the Enterprise, and I was reading books like The Making of Star Trek, and learning how a TV show was made. That book, I can't tell you, I've gone through multiple copies of that book. They fall apart because it was a thick book, and it was the one paperback that I couldn't help but bend the spine because I would read it in the bathtub. I read it on the toilet. I read that book all the time, over and over and over again, and it fascinated me. And I was lucky, there was shows like That's Hollywood, which was a 20th Century Fox show about the making of movies that Tom Bosley hosted. In the wake of Star Wars, there was the making of Star Wars, and it fascinated me. And it was a time when the art of filmmaking, I mean, obviously there was commerce there, and people could get rich, but there was film still had the people at the forefront of movie making were definitely movie stars, and then the people that were making them, because I was a kid in the 70s, but grew up when the Mavericks took over the studios again. The Easy Riders and the Raging Bulls. You had the rise of Lucas and Spielberg and De Palma and Scorsese, and then all the low-budget directors like Carpenter and Romero and Joe Dante and John Landis, and all these guys were, banging them out. And even people like Don Coscarelli, who made the Phantasm movie. He made all the Phantasm movies, and then movies like Beastmaster. I mean, there was so much going on that it seemed like there was all of this opportunity. Speaking of Canada, where's my second sight box with the Brood and and scanners, but even David Cronenberg, you started out and he was making movies in college like From the Drain and Stereo and Crimes of the Future, and then his first feature was They Came From Within, aka Shivers, And when I saw that film as a second bill with Motel Hell at a drive-in in 1980, right before scanners had come out, I'm like, I can do that. And I was making movies with my Super 8 camera and all that. I wanted to make movies, but I had no illusions that I was going to go to Hollywood. I never thought I was going to get rich and famous. What I wanted to do was make movies and tell stories. And to this day, I know it's only an audio drama, but I am hugely proud of what I was able to do with True Noir. I would put True Noir up against I know I'm like a first-time audio drama maker, and there's people that have been making audio dramas for a long time, but I would hope, not knowing much about, because I just kind of made it the way I wanted to make it, and I've not been a student of, I loved Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I listened to CBS Radio Mystery Theater religiously when I was a kid. I love the NPR Star Wars stuff. But those were my touchstones. And of course, the Sandman audio dramas, I loved those. And I've listened to things like Batman and Buried and stuff like that. But True Noir was something that I had a great script. I was very lucky. And to me, all these things came together. And I did not make True Noir to get rich, certainly. Maybe we'll sell it and I'll see some money come back. I certainly hope so, because I owe enough people. but I think the proof is in the pudding. But I didn't make True Noir to make money. I made True Noir because I was working with a great storyteller who I admired in Max Allan Collins, and to have somebody who's literally Mystery Writers of America Grandmaster, to be able to work with somebody like him. I don't tell him what to write. Like, trying to make movies at the studio now, and I'm gonna read you tales of this. But when I heard the story about the costume designer from Honora, and she told me that she was working as a waitress after coming back from the Cannes Film Festival, I'm like, that's just perfect. A movie that you design the costumes for is in competition and then wins the biggest prize at the Cannes Film Festival, which is still the preeminent film festival in the world. It wins, and then you go back to your day job as a waitress. That is my experience in Hollywood. Now, I've never won the Palme d'Or. I've never won an Academy Award. But I've won a couple of Saturn Awards. Free Enterprise, I did, like I said, won Best New Writer from the Writers Guild of America. We won the New Directions Award for Best Film. I got a Saturn Award for Best Independent Video release. And I have won awards, not big awards, but they keep you going. And so my experience of the whole world is I might be on a YouTube show. When I was at Collider, I've told this story many times, but there were people there that didn't know what I did. They didn't know I made movies, because you don't go in and go, hello there, I'm Rob Burnett, I make movies, or I do. Have you heard my audio drama? You don't do that. You just continue to do work, and if someone asks what you're doing, you're like, oh, I just finished this audio drama, and they look at you like you're crazy. What is an audio drama? Well, it's like a book on tape, but with more sound effects and a score. And a lot of actors that you've probably seen, but it's the dichotomy of the business and the dichotomy of the world that we exist in is not what everybody thinks it is. I know I'm on YouTube channels. People criticize me for streaming with certain people, which I think is totally absurd. It's completely absurd to me. Because to me, I like all kinds of people. Like, I watch stories about all kinds of people. I have a lot of movies about real degenerates, and if I met them in real life, I would talk to them. It's such a weird. We live in such a weird, bizarre, polarizing time, which I think is completely counterproductive. And I feel like the entire world has become infantilized, and everybody's 12 years old again. And I mean that sincerely. And I don't understand how this has happened, and I don't understand, where are all the adults? Is there a place where there's a lot of adults somewhere? Like the adults in the room that were supposed to be in control. Are they around? People on my side of the fence are like burning down and vandalizing people's cars because they don't like the figurehead of the studio, or the figurehead they don't like Elon Musk. But they're the same people that'll say that, Elon Musk really didn't make Tesla. He really didn't do anything. But yet you're going to go burn their cars. It's so insane. Those are people's cars. They spent a lot of money for those cars, and the cars are good. And it's like, why are you justifying burning things up? In what universe are you? Since when? Like, if I had somebody burn up my car, I would be in a world of hurt. I couldn't drive to John Campy's show. Elizabeth's teaching. We would have one car between us. It would be a real hardship. And then trying to get the insurance to pay off on that. I don't even know. Does insurance cover arson? Somebody burned up my car. Well, that's not part of your policy. And yet there's all this justification. We can burn up. No, you can't. Who said? What universe do you live in? You know, it's just amazing to me. It's amazing to me. It's amazing to me that one student who's getting deported from the United States is a lot more, people are a lot more interested in what's happening to him than hostages that were taken into Gaza for over 500 days and families murdered, or what's happening in Sudan, or what's happening in Yemen, or what's happening in China with the Uyghurs. Where's all that outrage? I don't know. But I don't want to get political on the show. I want to talk about ambition, and I want to talk about, well, what keeps people going. Now, I've got 2 articles I want to read. Let me just see what you guys have to say. First of all, I did get, somebody fired in a tip a couple days ago, and I wanted to get to that. It's from Sterling. Tarantino once said he considers the current era of film to be one of the worst ever, along with the 50s and the 80s. What are your thoughts? Agree or disagree? Well, here's the thing. I agree, but I think the problem with today's, I don't think that the motion picture studios are not making, they're making movies, but they're not making, it used to be the collision of art and commerce. But all the movies that I grew up with, all the movies I grew up watching, there was somebody on, who I follow, I think it's HD, somebody, was talking about how he wished the Criterion Collection would put out movies like Jurassic Park and Possession, Zulawski's Possession. First of all, Possession's been coming out from boutique labels for a long time, and Criterion did put out Godzilla vs. Biollante this week. But it's like, the reason people say shit like that is because they haven't seen. Our movie fans, and a lot of the people I talk to on whether it's Film Twitter or here, people aren't fans of cinema. They're fans of movies. And most people haven't seen most of the great works of cinema because they're not interested. You have to teach yourself how to watch. Like, there's very few people, especially people that are under 35 years old. I could not tell. Somebody said to me, man, I love science fiction movies. I just love them. I can't get enough of them. I can't tell one of those people to watch Stalker, Andrei Tarkovsky's Stalker, that's based on a science fiction novel called Roadside Picnic that was written by Arkady and Boris Strugatsky, the Strugatsky brothers, who also wrote, I forget the other, anyway, I forget, they wrote something else too. And then there's, of course, the Polish science fiction writer Stanislaw Lem, who wrote Solaris, another great Russian science fiction movie. I can't tell people who like science fiction movies to watch Stalker. They would come back to me and say, that was like watching paint dry. I watched a half an hour of it and I couldn't get through it. Admittedly, totally understandable. Because no one today is going back and watching those movies. I watched those movies when I was a kid. And I'm not saying I'm better than you. There weren't very many science fiction movies to watch. So when there was something, I would seek it out and go see it. But the problem is, the movies that were being made, Andrei Tarkovsky was not interested in box office. He was truly an artist. He was truly an artist of the cinema. There are still people like that. I would say, like, Past Lives, I would say was a wonderful, that was a work of art. Yeah, they had to make the money to make the movie. They had to get the movie. But when I watched Past Lives, it was a delightful, quiet, poignant, profound film that was also very entertaining. But and now I watched, we talked about the trailer for her new movie that's coming out. That's a rom-com that looks delightful. It's coming out from A24, and I'm like, this is the most non-A24, and John said this too. This is the most non-A24 movie ever. But there are no longer, we don't have art house filmmakers, especially not working at the studio level, because the studio would say, why would we hire somebody that's going to make a movie that's not going to make any money? The entire business has shifted. There's no more pretense of art in modern American studio filmmaking. A24, ironically, and Neon are the only people, I would say that A24 and Neon, they're not the only people, but they're distributors. A24 and Neon are filling the niche that they're the purveyors of cinema as an art form. And even then, I would say, a case can be made. Is Harmony Korine's output, is that art? And I would say, okay, well, Spring Breakers, it's artistic. I would say, yeah. And you could say that I thought when I saw Robert Eggers' The Witch, I'm like, I was knocked out by that. I was like, this movie is pure cinema. Robert Eggers was not like, wow, I hope The Witch is a total box office success. He did not make that movie. He wanted it to make money, sure, but Robert Eggers was going to make that movie whether it was going to make money or not. And I'm really happy that Nosferatu did well for him, because we have very few filmmakers left, one, that know how to make movies. There's not a lot of young people coming up, and you'd think there would be, because young people are interested in other things. User-generated content being one. Why would you be interested in watching somebody else's movies when you can turn on YouTube, start your own YouTube channel, and interact with the world? I can get a far bigger audience talking to you out there right now at 11:17 at night than I can through most of the movies that I've worked on. As a matter of fact, there's a movie that I edited. I spent a year of my life working on it. It's called Dean Quixote. And if you get the reference, you should. But it was written and directed. Well, it was co-written by Orion Walker and directed by Orion. He's become a huge writer in the video game industry. Kudos to you, Orion. This is the one and only feature film he made, and it really is about a college student who is going to graduate, and he respects art, and he's an artist at heart, and he doesn't have an artistic mission. Like, what is his jam? What is his artistic mission going to be? And he navigates relationships. It has many homages to David Lynch movies, and it has a band in it called Guided by Voices. And Guided by Voices, he explained it to me. He goes, I want you to edit this movie because, like Free Enterprise, you had Shatner, you had your hero, and Guided by Voices, the band and their leader, is my hero. So he was able to get Guided by Voices to be in the movie, and I really worked hard on this movie. I think it was a good little movie. It has a lot of, actors that really haven't gone a lot of places, but a great cast, really great ensemble cast. That movie that I worked a year of my life on is sitting on a shelf. It hasn't been released. No one's seen it in 25 years, because when they flew the band out, put them up, they've performed in the movie, but they only had what were called festival rights at first. They agreed to be in the movie, and if the movie sold to distribution, then they would have a new contract. When you're making an independent movie and you have what are called festival rights, a lot of the time, like Free Enterprise had festival rights to a lot of big 80s songs that I put in the movie, because I edited the film myself, and I took all my favorite 80s music. Well, when we were done and the movie was going to sell to distributors, my soundtrack was, to get the rights to all the songs that were in this movie, was $1.5 million. I had $100,000 for the music budget, so I had to reconceptualize what I wanted. But so Dean Quixote has been sitting literally on a shelf, unseen. It's cut negative, and there's a lot of references to Lynch. I was hoping people could, some way to get it out after David Lynch passed, but because the rights to Guided by Voices, even though they're in the movie, they don't have the rights. They don't have the rights to release the film. They don't have Guided by Voices permission to do it, even though they were in the film. You'd think by agreeing to be in the movie that was tacit approval. It's not, because you don't get what you deserve. You get what you negotiate, and they only had festival rights. So a movie I worked a year of my life on is sitting on a shelf. Yeah, I think it would be a movie if it was found by Netflix or something and they put it on there. It could be a Netflix movie, and you could put a title on the front of it. It said from the year 2000, or just you could pick a date, September 18th, 2000. So people knew it was a period piece from 25 years ago. If I ever get the ability to make Free Enterprise and make the 4K version of it, I would have a title card that would, instead of say the near present, it would be a Blade Runner. It would have the Blade Runner font, and it would say Los Angeles, September 13th, 1999. And that's how it begins. So people would know it was a period piece from 25 years ago, and I wouldn't get canceled. But anyway, and that's kind of what the business is like. A year of my life on this project on a movie, and that was not the only movie I've worked on that's sitting on a shelf. I worked on a serial killer movie that were made by my dear friends, the Enton brothers, called My 11th. And that's been sitting on a shelf. And it's heartbreaking. Tack sends in a tip and says, art will always be humanity's greatest, expressing our unique experience. Even if how you do so is evolving and changing. I totally agree with this. I think it will always be worth it to create and absorb art. Keep making art, and people who understand it will gravitate to it. I have to tell you something. Elizabeth, she's teaching at La Sierra College. She's teaching fine arts, and she has a ceramics class. And she had a class show at the Brandstetter Gallery. And I always go to support her. I always go to the different things. And the interesting thing about her ceramics class is more than half are not people in the fine arts program. They're economists or there's something totally different. And I go to this art show and I was blown away by the wit and the talent of everyone that came out of Elizabeth's ceramics class. Blown away. You can go to her, Elizabeth Gwendolyn Bell. You can go to her Facebook page and see some of the work. The work was exemplary. And these people weren't even necessarily artists, but they did phenomenal work, of course, led by Elizabeth herself. Phenomenal work. I was blown away at the not just the great talent, but the thought behind the pieces. And it made me realize one of the things that our civilization, especially in America now, I'm a big capitalist. I believe in capitalism, but we've reduced everything. Everything has to have a dollar value associated with it. If it isn't making a profit, why do it? And I would say that much of human existence is not about profit. And it was interesting to see people that were not in their disciplines to come out and take a ceramics course and express their creativity. And the show they put on was really amazing. And the thought process behind that is amazing. And I was thinking to myself, if you're going to go into economics, for instance, you need to know how to think out of the box. And creativity in one form is going to help you in business and work in another form. And what we are not doing in this country anymore, we teach for the test. Somebody's asked, you have to get this level so it justifies the spending. And I would say that kind of thinking when it comes to things like education is ridiculous because you're not giving people, you need to be three-dimensionally educated. And I can tell, look, even the time I've been online for the last 10 years, and I mean no disrespect, but the level of discourse, when you read that only 60% of Americans are reading at sixth grade or lesser levels, this is problematic. Reading is fundamental. And that means our population is being denied you need tools to make it in the world. And the first tools you need are education. You need to understand how to interact in the world around you. And people are, now that we can make user-generated content, everybody's me. And look, I'm doing it right now. But they don't have enough in them because they're spending too much time doing this, and they're not spending enough time filling it back in, putting things back in their minds. It's not great. It's not good what's happening. And you can see it, which is a bummer. But Tax says, again, he says, by the way, I love Joker 2 as well. Weird, ambitious, and risky. I loved how it continued the theme of the original, that Arthur is not getting the help he truly needs to grow as a person. Beautifully sung, acted, written, and directed. A top 10 comic book movie for me. What's a perfect example? I mean, should Joker 2 have been made for $200 million? No. But you got to admire the swing that Todd Phillips took. But by doing something like that, that was not the smartest move in the world. But I'm just saying. However, I like that we live in a world where Joker 2 exists, or Joker Folle et Deux. But it wasn't the movie people wanted, and that was a mistake, and it wiped out all of the profit the first Joker movie made, which probably wasn't the greatest thing in the world to do. Let me just look and see what you guys are saying. So let me go back up here. Kenny Colton, who's been a member for 27 months. He says, 27 months, Rob, you owe me a phone call. Spider caught a fly, and I won't stop asking. Happy 94th birthday, William Shatner. Where is Doc? Became a member of the channel. 1001 Johnny says, damn it, Jim. Happy birthday, Bill Shatner. Major Chai Chai says, thanks for the shout out earlier today on the Salty Nerd podcast. Well, Major Chai Chai, here's to you, since you have a drink. By the way, who wouldn't want to give a shout out to you? You're the best. Shout out to Major Chai Chai. By the way, one day I'm going to wear her Witch King of Agmar gauntlets that she made. It's going to happen. Jose Acosta says, hi, Rob, I love the show. Have you heard about the upcoming film called Freaky Tales? If so, do you plan on watching it? I'm in. Fun fact, I was a locations PA. Wow, on that film? I'll watch it. Freaky Tales. Bring it on. That sounds like a good porn film that I'd like to see that was made by my neighbors. I'm just kidding. Deez Webos has been a member for 29 months. Well, thank you, Deez Webos. That is very nice that you've been a member for that long. I very much appreciate that. Let's see. I'm all caught up. Oh, and 1001 Johnny says, Rob, I've been doing a deep dive into the origins, of Wonder Woman. Her creator, William Martin Marston, spent his entire academic career trying to get his feminist theory into public consciousness. Yep. He was in his mid-40s. He certainly was when he finally found comics. Yes, I mean, he liked to get lassoed up and whipped. No, he's an interesting character. They made a movie about him. There's a documentary about him. I think there was a narrative feature about him too. But now I want to get into the business of Hollywood. I know this is such a rambling stream. I just hadn't done one, and I figured I want to come on. But I'm going to read these articles, and the first one is from the LA Times. And this article is the 5 best pieces of advice we heard this year about starting a career in Hollywood. And this was by Ada Sang and assistant editor, utility journalism. This was written on December 16th, 2021. And as you can see, hey, the new Hollywood right there for you. When you aspire to work in Hollywood, it's hard not to be seduced by the promise of a highly Instagrammable lifestyle. The luxury of getting paid to be creative, the photogenic people on red carpets, and the fans who adore your work. Yeah, that's not what Hollywood is at all. But navigating a career in the entertainment industry can be confusing, especially if you don't have connections, because there are countless pathways and no guarantees. In June, the Times launched its Guide to the Entertainment Industry Careers to help demystify one of the most popular industries in Los Angeles. In these articles, we ask people working in Hollywood what cold, hard truths newcomers need to know in order to make smart, practical decisions about their careers. We also explain what a lot of the jobs are. Every film and television show displays a long list of them, a nod to every single person it took to bring that vision to the screen. We hope you'll continue telling us what you want to know about working in Hollywood so we can help you find answers. Here are some of the best pieces of advice we've heard so far. Finding a community is a key to booking jobs and also staying sane. Hollywood is all about whom you know, but arguably more important than meeting showrunners, casting directors, and producers is building a solid network of friends. You can find your community of creatives in many ways, such as through classes, events, small theaters, advocacy nonprofits, film festivals, or social media. But ideally, you make friends while you work on projects and you all move up together. People like Jennifer Hutchinson and Shaz Bennett told us that the group of assistants they befriended as newcomers in the industry are still people who support them and sometimes give them jobs today. People you come to trust will also be the ones who can help you spot scams and manage your mental health. It's a rough industry full of extreme highs and lows. Rejection is the norm. You'll need friends. Learn by doing, which sometimes requires volunteering your time or investing your own money. The reality of the industry is that it's so competitive that it's often hard to make money until you have proven you have the skills to be hired for a paying gig. So if you're an actor, you might have to start acting in student films for free or to create a reel. If you want to be an animal trainer, you need to volunteer cleaning kennels and rearing baby animals. But some jobs, you'll not only be working for free, but you'll also need to invest your own money. If you want to be a director, you might need to fund or crowdfund your own projects. If you want to be a gaffer, camera person, or voice actor, you'll likely need to invest in equipment. So how do you make a living in the meantime? It depends on your situation, but for a lot of people, pursuing an entertainment career requires balancing your dream with your side jobs and side hustles. Save up before you move or quit your job. There are advantages to being in Los Angeles amid the hustle and bustle of the entertainment industry, but you can start your Hollywood career from anywhere. If you're a writer, you don't need to be paying LA rent in order to churn out your portfolio of screenplays. If you or your child want to be an actor, there are advantages to developing your own craft locally before uprooting your life. Even after actor and social media personality Kendall had attracted more than 1 million followers on Instagram, he stayed in Michigan working in human resources until he had saved enough money to last 1.5 years. A lot of people back home were saying, you need to go to LA, you need to quit your job, he told the LA Times. And yes, I did quit my job, but I made a plan. Zeno Macaluso, a director at SAG-AFTRA, recommended having a minimum of $5,000 in the bank, access to a car, $5,000. That'll last you a month, a living arrangement, and a part-time job before you move to LA. This will protect you from being vulnerable to those who might try and take advantage of you and your wallet. Voice actor Joe Zija told the Times that another benefit to having a cushion is that you can be more selective about the jobs you take. You can only be as picky as your bank account allows you to be, he said. Understand what the pathways to your dream job are. Hollywood is about storytelling, and there are a lot of different stories people tell about how they got started in the industry. But it's important to know which stories are helpful to you and which ones are not. Some tales that have built the myth of Hollywood, such as the actors who were discovered while walking their dog, then booked a role in their first audition and appeared in a surprise hit, rarely happen in real life. There are stories that tell of more common paths to success, but may still be irrelevant to you. Someone who grew up with parents in the industry knew how it worked since they were a kid. You may not have had that head start. And then there are stories that are even less glamorous, but they show possible steps to get a destination, even if the steps are all over the place. In our Explaining Hollywood series, we offer specific advice for specific careers, including how to become an editor, a publicist, a Foley artist, and more. Does it require going to a trade school? Are there fellowships to apply to? Do most people start as an assistant? What do you need to do first before you look for an agent? Are there lists of websites where you can apply for freelance gigs? Ben Lopez, executive director of the National Association of Latino Independent Producers, told the Times that he tells up-and-comers to do their research. People apply everywhere hoping they'll get in somewhere, but make it targeted so you're not wasting your years and years looking for the right job and opportunity, he said. Know that there's more to life than Hollywood. Hollywood can be brutal, and even people who are successful can get caught up and beaten down from chasing the next high. Therapist Brian Torres, who works with many clients in the entertainment industry, said the most toxic part of Hollywood is the myth that if you aren't devoting 110% of your energy to the industry 110% of the time, it's all going to disappear. He tries to get creatives to make room for other career possibilities so they don't feel stuck or dependent on other people's validation for happiness. Often the skills that make you want to pursue a job in Hollywood are transferable. Sound designers are in demand in the video game and tech industries. Writers can write for any industry. Producers are great organizers and project managers. Practical special effects artists would likely be great carpenters and welders. Actor Randall Park told the Times that it's important to remember that your career is not the most important aspect of living a happy and fulfilled life. But he also said it makes sense that the funnest job in the world is really hard to get. If you want to experience that much fun for a living, you got to go through some hoops. As you might guess, I thought this article, while it meant well, is pure hogwash, to be honest. First of all, there is this weird perception in the world that whether it's Hollywood elites, who are the Hollywood elites? All the people that I know in the industry, for the most part, moved here from somewhere else. You know, they wanted to work in the business. All of my coterie of ne'er-do-well friends, we all kind of met because we were fans, but we all moved here. We all migrated here in the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s. And we all kind of found each other through events, and then we started working together. Here's the thing. Hollywood is not a place where you can go apply for a job and get that job. I mean, to a certain extent, you might be able to find a job, you can be somebody's assistant. But if you want to work in Hollywood, being an assistant doesn't necessarily get you anywhere. You're someone's assistant, and that's what you are. And you can learn a lot from being somebody's assistant, but it depends what you want to do. Hollywood is such a generic thing. I mean, I knew that I wanted to tell stories, and I've been lucky in that I was honing my ability to tell stories from the very beginning because I was learning to edit. And when editing jobs came up, if I could find a way to get into editing something, I would do it. And that was something that I started doing when I was a little kid on Super 8mm films. Then I actually took an editing course in USC, at USC. But, you know, I would PA on things. My first job as a PA was one of the hardest jobs I ever had, but I was on a movie set, and I learned more in one day on a movie set than I'd learned in my entire life up to that point about movie making. With all the books I'd read about movie making, it was nothing. You can read all the theory you want. But like, you know, the greatest plans are like everyone says, the no battle plan survives contact with the enemy. You know, it's just a truism in life. So the thing about working in Hollywood, a lot of people don't understand that Hollywood, you have to put as much work in, and Hollywood is this mythic. What is Hollywood to you? To me, Hollywood is a city where everything is happening. The music business is happening. There's the business of Hollywood. You can be an agent, you can be a manager. That has nothing to do with making movies. Nothing. You're trying to get your clients into projects, but agents and managers, for the most part, don't know fuck all about what goes on when you're on set or what you're doing in an edit bay. They know nothing. And that's why it's so frustrating when you're trying to get somebody to come in your movie, the agent, and be in your movie. The agent is trying to get their client and themselves as much as they can get from you. Like, they don't care that you're an indie production that you might be financing with your credit cards or something. They don't care. That has nothing to do with the fact that their client needs to get paid, and they need to get a fraction of what they get paid. So the client is going to use their agent, manager, or lawyer to get as much money from you as possible. They do not care about the art. They don't. They care about the deal. That's what they care about. And you're going to spend the next 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 years of your life making a movie? What does that mean? You know, like, I've been sitting here for 5 months editing. Well, not 5 months. I guess 5 months, because I really started editing in November, and now it's March, almost the end of March. So I didn't have all my stuff. But for 5 months, 5 hours, you know. And in addition to doing all the other things I'm doing, whether it's White Devils, whether it's YouTube, whatever I can. Crisis Medicine, I'll be gone up in Portland doing Crisis Medicine this coming week, and then going to CinemaCon the week after. In addition to getting the final 2 mixes of episodes 9 and 10 done with my sound designer, and then doing the whole 5-hour version. I mean, you're doing stuff all the time. There is that's why these initiatives, really, the whole idea of DEI, like, who isn't? Look, the secret of Hollywood, it is who you know, but it's really how are you? People want to work with talented people that they get along with. Making anything is social. You're interacting with other people. If you're an unrepentant asshole, nobody wants to work with you. If you're an egomaniac, unless you're a director and you can get away with it, or you're in a position of power and get away with it, nobody wants to work with you either. So to work in Hollywood, you have to be part psychiatrist, you have to be part historian, you have to be part poet, you have to be part artist, and you have to know how to navigate people. You need to know how to read people. You know, and you have to, one of the things that's happened to the industry is a lot of young people who are coming in the industry are not equipped, or they get triggered by a lot of the stuff that happens on a film set. A film set is a body place. You're dealing with a carnival atmosphere a lot of the time. And you're dealing with, nobody cares about your feelings. We're going to work 18 hours today. We're going into splits. So you're going to be working, you're going to start at 4 in the afternoon and you're going to finish at 4 a.m. Nobody gives a fuck about your feelings, because we have this much money to spend on this day, and we have to get this many setups done, and we have to get this many pages shot. Nobody cares about how you feel. And if you don't have a thick skin, get out of the business. And don't complain to HR when somebody says something that's remotely triggering to you. That's not fair to anybody else on the crew. It's not about you. It's about the day. It's about the day being made. And if the day isn't going to get made, nobody cares about your feelings. Trust me. And if you care about your feelings, I want to live in it, get out of the business. I'm sorry, but you're dealing with a lot of different people that have a lot of different points of view, and they're all more talented than you are. So what you do is you watch and you learn, and you shut the fuck up, and you make sure that you are there to help anybody. And be a go-getter. Walk up to people and ask them, hey, what can I do for you? Can I help you? Don't be obtrusive. But Hollywood is all, if you want to make it in Hollywood, I would say this. If you want to become a filmmaker in Hollywood, go make a movie. It's quick sway in. Because most people can't make movies. You have to be talented. 99% of the people that want to make movies are not going to make good ones. But if you're part of that 1% and you make a great movie, Hollywood will come to exploit your ass. Trust me. The film festival circuit, all that. Do whatever you can because nobody is going to help you. You have to do it yourself. And all this like kumbaya stuff, well, you got to go make network connections. No, you make connections working. You might meet somebody at a party and whatever. You can connect that way. I know people that have met people that way, but the problem is then you want something from somebody. You're trying to get something from a person. Nobody wants to give you anything. What they want to do is they want to find people they can work with. So you need to turn yourself into somebody that has something to offer. That to me is like hone your skills, figure that out. What is it you're going to do? Don't look for somebody else to give you something. You turn yourself into something that makes yourself valuable to other people. I think that's true of most businesses, but Hollywood especially. When I started out as a PA, when I was doing a good job for people, working 6 days a week, working 20 hours a day and never complaining, what can I do for you? What can I do for you? Then when that job is over, you'll get a phone call, some random phone call. Hey, can you come work on this project? Yes, I can. Because people know that you're fun to be around and they know you're reliable and they know you can get the job done. But more importantly, they know that they can spend 12 hours a day with you. That's the most important thing of all. I'm not saying you can't have talent. But now I want to read another article that is pretty amazing. First of all, let me get through these. Drew Skizzy says, living in Atlanta, I pursued a film career from 2017 to 2020. After the pandemic, I shifted to a low voltage IT job. I often wonder, what if? But I'm happy now. See, that's the thing. That's another thing. This is not a business for the faint of heart. This is not a happy business. Like I told you, here I finished cutting True Noir. There's nobody around here. I walk up, I say, Elizabeth, I've finished cutting this project. True Noir only meant really something to me. Like, I'm sitting here, I've been working out for months and months and months, and I have to like it. There's nobody else, there's no fanfare, no one's going to be like, great, Rob, we're going to take you out to lobster dinner. No one cares. Nobody cares. And when they listen to it, they won't even care then. They'll be like, hey, I'll get that. Your audio drama is really cool. I really like it. And then they'll go on about their day. I don't expect any accolades except that Grammy I'm hoping to win. No, but I know it's good. I know it's good. I know it's the best I can do. And that's the only thing that you can get out of it is the satisfaction for yourself. I was able to raise the money, hard as it might have been, to get this thing to get made. I got it made. I think it's A-list. Couldn't have made it better. We're going to have the Blu-ray. More people can buy it, and you can hear it and tell me what you think. There's already, there's one review. Please, if you like it, go to the IMDb and review True Noir. There's one review that the guy talks about how good it is, but he's like, I don't understand this. Why didn't you make a movie or a TV series? Oh, I'll take that under advisement. Because there was no way that anyone was going to let us make a 10-chapter movie or TV show, a 5-hour piece set in 1932 and 33 Chicago that would have cost $10 million an episode. Of course I want to make a movie. Of course I want to do a TV series. I mean, that was the whole point. We're going to do the audio drama first and show that it was viable, show that Max's work is viable. It's a process. But if you think I don't want to make a True Noir movie, you got another thing coming. If you don't think I'm already not working on a True Noir movie, you also have another thing coming. Of course we are. That's what you do. It's just how it is. But for the time being, the only satisfaction that I've had from making True Noir, aside from hearing people say it's good, which I like, is because I know it's good. I feel good about it. I feel like what I made's good. I feel like we hired all these great actors. I felt like I got a composer, Alexander Bornstein. I called him up, said, hey, I want you to do this thing for me. We paid him. I knew he was going to deliver the goods. I mean, the score he wrote for this thing is amazing. I'm as proud of that score as I am of anything else, and I had nothing to do with the score. I just knew who to call. And that to me is hugely gratifying, hugely satisfying. I'm not going to get anyone banging on my door. What'll happen is if 5 years from now, somebody will discover True Noir and I'll get a phone call. Hey man, we're doing this thing. We really like your thing. Can you come do this? And you're like, yeah, sure. You never know. I get random calls about things I did 20 years ago. You just never know. The satisfaction you get in this business is personal satisfaction. You don't get it from other people. You don't. You have to take the personal satisfaction that comes from knowing you did your best and you made something that you think is great. Rick Rubin said the same thing. Rick Rubin, he produced the Cults album Electric, produced the Beastie Boys. Rick Rubin said the same thing. He's like, I don't even know much about music. I just make things for myself. And if I make things that I like, maybe other people will like them too. That's the best thing you can do if you want to, I think if you want to work in Hollywood or any creative industry where you're trying to make something. So here's this highlight article. It's a long one, and it comes to us once again from Cole Haddon, who wrote a great book. He's a TV writer. He's been working for a long time. He wrote this article. It's in the fanfare section of Medium, and it was published 4 days ago, and I read it, and I'm like, oh, I've got to read this because let me tell you, this is a great, very true account of Hollywood and what it's like. And it's called The Fucked Up Amount of Free Work It Takes to Not Sell Something in Hollywood Today. This article, don't let it be discouraging, but it's all true. And this is why if you can make your own things and call your own shots, like there's nobody I have to answer to on True Noir. Nobody's going, can you speed this up? Or I think this goes on too long. Can you cut it out? I don't have that. I trust myself, and I'm lucky I don't have that. But that's very rare because when you're spending other people's money, they control you, and they can tell you what to do, unless you can figure out creative ways to circumnavigate that. But this is a great article. The Fucked Up Amount of Free Work It Takes to Not Sell Something in Hollywood Today by Cole Haddon. Or that time a studio told me to spec a TV pilot for it, even though I had an A-list actor attached to the project. Oh, let me get here. When I sold my first feature screenplay in 2008, all that was required of me was a solid long line and a rambling, generally unfocused 15-minute conversation inspired by notes I'd scribbled down the day before. Other projects I sold in the late aughts and early teens involved no more than a 5-minute reply to the classic question, "What are you working on?" I've even sold projects in the room. What this all led to is what's called development in Hollywood. It's what producers and studios used to do all day, every day. They found ideas and sometimes speculative scripts. Those are scripts that are written by people they wrote them on their own and they were not paid for them, hoping to sell them. And after paying writers for their labor, wrestled set ideas and scripts into green lights. More often than not, they failed because, well, art is hard. And creating something that exists at the intersection between art and commerce is even harder. But it's this process that has allowed the American film and TV industry to thrive for decades, paying artists to discover the best way to tell their screen story, and with producers' help, hopefully thread the creative commercial needle necessary to get it made. Today, however, a screenwriter is typically expected to break every element of a film or TV series before a contract and payment is even discussed. In the case of the series, often multiple seasons, as well as create a visual pitch deck and maybe cut a trailer to help them sell their project. All this is ideally based on intellectual property the screenwriter has somehow optioned with their own resources. But what they really need to do if they want to sell something is attach a hot director and a valuable star. Except, even then, this often doesn't work. The business is rife today with stories of packages dying despite the impressive names involved, like the one I'm about to tell you. This personal tale of hand-wringing woe will illustrate for you the real world where this recent evolution in Hollywood development takes on a screenwriter. The Writers Guild of America struck in 2023 in part because it's impossible to build or sustain a career in a system as broken as this. Here's the setup. I'm living in Oxfordshire, in the UK. A recent spec script I wrote during lockdown has wowed a major US production company I've had a long relationship with. The producers asked me to hop on Zoom to catch up, but really, astonishingly, the Zoom is to present me with an exciting creative opportunity. This is why I tell aspiring screenwriters that spec scripts are rarely about selling that specific script. They're mostly about inspiring people to work with you on something else. Now, for those of you who are interested in being writers, that's why if you want to break into Hollywood, a lot of writers would write a spec script of their favorite TV show. Not to sell it to their favorite TV show, but to show other people that they could write a story for TV. So if you write, say, if you wrote a Seinfeld episode, but you were really trying to get a job on Frasier, maybe your spec Seinfeld script would be a calling card that would get you work on Frasier. That was a typical thing to do in the TV business. The producers tell me about a TV series they would like me to create and write for them. They're keen to produce a prestige limited series inspired by the life of one of America's most murderous cult leaders. I'm immediately intrigued by this idea because I identify a tremendous amount of thematic overlap between the story of the cult leader and his followers and Donald Trump and the MAGA movement. I could finally talk about Trump in a narratively exciting but oblique way. Then, the producers tell me a studio is already involved. Great, that'll help us sell it. More, there is a star interested in playing the lead and producing. This is an immediate red flag for me. Why? Well, I've been told this so many times in my career, I never believe it anymore. It inevitably turns out that some producer had a passing encounter with an actor, and they parted ways saying something as meaningless as, "We should work together, dude. Yeah, that'd be great. Cool." Months later, some poor screenwriter has killed themselves working on a project that, they're told, the actor is unfortunately too busy for now. But this time, it's different. The star, whom I won't name, is an A-lister nominated for multiple Emmys and Golden Globes. Let's call him Brock Rockwell here because I love how bad this name is. The producers have worked with Brock multiple times, and I know for a fact that he's a friend of the head of the company. Despite my previous experiences, I decide to gamble that the star is more than a dangling carrot to induce free work for me. I spend the next 3 months breaking the entire series. That means breaking means you come up with a storyline and you break each story so each story works, beginning, a middle, and an end. You know what's going to happen. That's what you've broken the story. Not that it doesn't work. I spend the next 3 months breaking the entire series, literally every episode, even though the original agreement with the producers was to only break the pilot. I'm told Brock will want to hear the whole story before he officially attaches himself, which I know are words just to get more free work out of me, but I don't have much of a choice. It kills me, and I abhor this game producers play to milk labor out of screenwriters, but a deadline announcement with Brock's name and my name in it will transform my career. More, I'm generally a huge fan of Brock's. I desperately want to work with him. Basically, both my bank account and my creative heart are invested in this project happening now. Then, after weeks of Brock being unavailable, busy on sets, all of which I assume means he doesn't even know about this project because his name being referenced was just to get free work out of me, I get word that he wants to Zoom on Saturday. I spend the next 72 hours racked by anxiety. If I fuck this up, all of my work will have been wasted, and more, I will blow an opportunity that rarely comes along for writers who aren't in the A-list themselves. The night before the Zoom, a good friend, another producer I trust implicitly, tells me I absolutely cannot talk for 30 minutes, no matter what the production company is saying or however good my pitch is. Actors want to talk, not listen. Actor friends of mine tell me the same. So I pour my glass of scotch at this point to calm down and accept that I know this story inside and out by now. I'm just going to give a quick overview of the series, tell Brock why I think this character is so dramatically exciting and thematically resonant today, then let him take the lead. The Zoom finally kicks off. We banter for a bit. Then Brock tells me to start talking with a roguish smile. He's got a notepad, which he proudly waves at the camera, and he just wants to take notes. In other words, he doesn't want to talk at all. He's literally the only actor in the world who doesn't like being the center of attention in development meetings. This makes me like him immensely, but it's less than ideal at the moment. As a result, I wing it based on all the work I've done. I probably smile too much, but Brock is so damn charming, it's hard not to. I try to ignore how much I'm sweating. I keep asking him questions to gauge what he's reacting to most so I can pivot accordingly. And at the end, he says he'll talk to the producers after he has some time to think about it. A week later, we get word from Brock, the A-list actor. He's in. The physical relief is unbelievable. I even shed a few tears. Because I'm about to make a lot of money my family desperately needs after COVID kneecapped our income. We're not unique in this regard, of course, but in my case, my last 2 contracts fell apart during negotiations, something that never used to happen to me or any other screenwriters I know. I haven't been paid anything substantial in more than a year as a result. But that's not going to happen this time because holy fucking shit, I'm going to work with Brock Walkwell. Insert the sound of tires screeching to a stop. I'm told the studio won't pay for a pilot script despite Brock's involvement, and despite the fact that the producers strongly suggested it would once Brock officially attached himself. My head hurts. This is madness of the highest order, based on everything that's happened during my career at this point, and based on everything I've learned about the screenwriting business from my reps and professional friends. 20 years earlier, it was possible to sell a pitch based on a badass title alone. I personally know people who did this. Charles Band did Decapitron. 10 years before that, I would have been asked if I wanted my payment in cocaine. But today, I have an A-list actor attached to my pitch, and well, nada. Everything has changed, I'm told. The studio won't pay me unless I spec the pilot first and meet their expectations to greenlight the whole series. In other words, I and the producers will have to produce a pilot script for free and bring it back to them with our A-list star attached. Even then, it begins to feel like we'll also have to find a director the studio will approve of to get me paid. Over the next week, I mull what to do. Ultimately, I decide I can't spend 6 to 8 months of my life pursuing a possible, realistically far-fetched job. Work is much more forthcoming in the UK for me, and nobody has ever asked me to labor for free there. Though to be clear, it happens to less established writers. More, I have to finish edits on my debut novel for my publisher. This would just be a terrible use of my time. Trumping all the practical concerns is my aforementioned personal disdain for free work. I can accept a degree of it as part of the toxic Hollywood culture, but what's currently being suggested to me is disgusting. It's exploitative and abusive, no matter how normal this has become. So, I pass on writing the pilot on spec. The producers tell me that we will pitch it around town with Brock Rockwell still attached, to hopefully find someone who will pay me for my labor. With Brock, it should be easy. And I'm yet again told. A week later, I get a call. Brock is starring in a huge new streaming series. He won't be available for a very long time. He's off our project, and we're out of luck. Fuck. That's how it's written. I'm devastated. But the producers insist they will find another star. This is what they do. I just need to rework the pitch for them into something that will work for other actors, since the last one was crafted just for Brock. I put in another month's work of free work, integrating what we learned from Brock's feedback along the way, which means re-breaking much of the series and then wait. And wait. And wait. I check in, but there's been no feedback from actors yet. Then we get word a competing project has sold on the feature side. Fuck. Don't worry, I'm told. that producers are going to press forward. The TV space is very different from this feature space, and features notoriously don't move forward. I wait and wait and wait. Then I get word the VP of development at the production company has left the company. I'm assured work will continue on our project, but I never hear from the production company ever again. In total, I spent about 6 months of my life working on the project described in this article. Also, I could never officially pitch the project to networks or streamers that might have brought it. Never be told no, never even have a real chance to make money off of my labor. An A-list star with multiple Emmy and Golden Globe nominations hadn't made a difference. And at the end of it, I didn't even get a thank you note for my time. This is the end result of studios, networks, and streamers offloading the responsibility and financial burden for development from their creative executives onto the shoulders of producers, but really screenwriters. This is what it's like being a screenwriter in Hollywood today. Totally right. And I'll tell you a funny story. This is true, by the way. So, unusually all the stories I tell you are true. Most of the time, 100%. So, after I made Free Enterprise, I got an agent at William Morris. I became a client of William Morris, which was funny because I used to be a reader there. So I became, and what happened then, so now I have an agent, good agent, big agent. But the biggest mistake, this is a huge mistake I made, a huge mistake. I thought, first of all, never trust anybody to look out for your career. The only person you can trust is you. Never, ever trust anyone, ever. You can trust people to a point, but always know they will fuck you. At some point, you're going to get fucked. You're not going to get kissed before you get fucked. There's no lube involved. You're just going to get fucked hard and fast. You got to be ready for that. It's going to happen, and you're not going to like it. But anyway, so I thought I was in a certain position with people I'd been working with in the past, and that position changed. So I was on my own, and I was being represented by William Morris, and that was part of the reason that my position with my former partners changed. So I was being given a project to develop with Bill Cosby. Not kidding. So he had written a nonfiction book about fatherhood that they wanted somebody to turn into either a movie or a TV series. And my agents and one of the heads of William Morris at the time took a shine to me, and they put me up to do this work. Now, there was no money involved. There I was. I'm working, keep in mind, and what did I start to do? I went to Bill Cosby's house for a weekly meeting where I would sit with Bill. I mean, I watched him in I Spy when I was a kid. And I mean, it was me and Bill Cosby, and I would throw out ideas about how we could turn, because they thought they liked Free Enterprise. They liked what they saw in Free Enterprise. And this is, I'd had a movie, and I spent a year, because the movie won some awards and it got some good notices. I spent a year going to these meetings, and I was represented. And so I would do anything that was asked of me. And at the same time, I'm also still working at NBC, making a shit ton of money as a predator, editing promos and Olympic spots and things like that. So I go to Bill Cosby's house, and sometimes we'd spend hours. I would throw out his ideas. He'd throw some stuff back at me, and I was writing stuff down, and I'd come up with a pretty great pitch for this project. Now, keep in mind, this is something that William Morris got me, and it was pretty prestigious at the time. It was Bill effing Cosby. So I'm working on this thing, and then one day I get a call from my agent who says I am being let go from the agency because I didn't earn anything. And William Morris merged. I want to say it was Bauer Benedict became UTA. I don't remember the details. This is like 2000. I have to look it up. But they were merging with another agency, and they were getting rid of 10% of their clients that were not earners. And I remember getting this call going, but I've been working for months on a spec project with Bill Cosby. like at your behest. Like you. And this was also, they did get me a pitch, and I think I've told the story. So anyway, the other pitch that I got from William Morris was, there's a movie that you might remember called Dude, Where's My Car? And I was up for directing Dude, Where's My Car, 20th Century Fox. And I read the Dude, Where's My Car script, and it was basically, it was like Cheech and Chong meets Repo Man, which was right up my alley. Very excited about this. I thought it was hilarious. Hilarious. And so I go, and it was like right out of The Big Picture, the Kevin Bacon movie, The Big Picture. I go into this room, there's got to be 20 people around a table at 20th Century Fox on the lot. And I'm in this room, and I pitch my vision for the script. And it was really, I thought the script was really funny because these two guys, Sean William Scott, I forget who else ended up being in the movie, but they called weed shibby. And I loved saying that word aloud. And anyway, I'm pitching this, and the pitch went great. I thought, I fucking nailed that. Nailed that pitch. But I talked about the fact that I really love that in 2000, I thought making a movie about weed, about these unrepentant, complete utter stoners who get involved with extraterrestrials. I thought, and when I said it's like a Cheech and Chong meets Repo Man, I'm like, the kids of America need this. They need this anti-establishment. And I talked about leaning. I don't even smoke weed. I'm more of a cocaine and ecstasy guy, as you all know, but I don't smoke weed. But I was like, I wanted to make the ultimate I wanted them smoked out the whole time. I wanted this movie to be about the dankest of dank nugs. And I'm pitching my heart out. And by the way, that's how the script was written. That was in the script. And I'm just leaning into what was there. And I was trying to make it like you want to make it your own. Like, how could I make this funny? And I thought you could make it, the script was already really funny, and make it anti-establishment and lean into those things. Come out of the pitch, your agent finds out within minutes, how'd you do? They thought it was fantastic. They thought my pitch, I'd blown them away. I thought, I got a fucking job. Hell yeah. I'm making a movie for 20th Century Fox. Woohoo! Next morning, I'm out. They decided that, probably because of my pitch, that they were going to remove the overt drug use and turn it from an R-rated movie into a PG movie. And that I leaned so heavily into the Cheech and Chong aspects of it and the Repo Man aspects of it, they wanted to make it, and maybe they realized what they had there, and they got fearful of it or whatever. And I forget who actually, but the other person I was up against was the guy who ended up actually directing the movie. And it was fine, it's fine. I was disappointed. It wasn't something I generated, but if I had done, so what you want to do is, if you make an indie movie back then, if someone said to me after making Free Enterprise, like if I made Colin Trevorrow and somebody said, hey, Spielberg loved my movie and said, come direct Jurassic World, I would say no. I'm like, dude, if I were to jump in and direct Jurassic World after making a less than $1 million movie, I wouldn't know the first thing about it. It would not help my career, because nobody's going to look at Jurassic World and think that I directed it. My agents would have said, oh, take the money, get as much money as you can. But I'm like, I would just be a traffic cop directing, maybe I could direct the actors, but what I would be looking for, what you want. And I'm going to get to what the biggest mistake I ever made was. And you don't think I've forgotten. So I didn't get the job. And they made the PG-13 version of Dude, Where's My Car? And they took out the overt stuff, and these guys just kind of like dudes, Dude, what? Dude. And it wasn't the movie I would have wanted to make anyway. And it was fine. And the director who made that movie sadly passed away. And they never made the sequel, which I heard that they were going to call the sequel Seriously, Dude, Where's My Car? Which I thought was a great title. But the lesson that I learned, the biggest lesson I learned, because I thought I was starting a company with my friends, is that after I made Free Enterprise, I did not have another movie that I wanted to make ready to go. And I had co-written the script. If I had a script that I had written and I said, I want to make this, then people can act on that. Even if they don't want to make it, they go, okay, well, this is what you want to make. You have something. Somebody might want to make it. I didn't have anything. I was so content with the fact that, oh my God, I made a movie with my childhood idol. I had succeeded in the goal that I wanted to achieve, which was make my first film. And I thought, it never occurred to me. I'm like, well, I figured you make your first film, you're going to be able to make more movies. But you can only make more movies, and people can only trust you to make more movies if you have movies that you wanted to make. Now, I had tons of things I wanted to adapt this book or this comic or this thing or that thing. But what they really wanted from me was another film script that I had written, and I hadn't written one. And that was my biggest career mistake. And so after that experience, after not getting Dude, Where's My Car? Oh, I was up to direct Freddy Got Fingered. Tom Green, they didn't want Tom Green to direct it. He ended up directing it. And that was a thing that they gave me, and I had to do a pitch on Freddy Got Fingered. But that was which I didn't want to do. But it was interesting reading that script. But after that experience and after being dumped by my agency for not being an earner, I'm like, I thought I was doing pretty good in meetings, and then I was just cut. I'm like, I had no interest. I wasn't going to spend almost a year of my life, like Cole Haddon describes here, to do these things. And when I was let go, I'm like, what about retaining me to work on the Bill Cosby project? Well, I wasn't earning money, so I was just out. So all that time I'd spent driving to Santa fucking Monica, from where I lived. If you know LA, I don't want to be, the Californians, but it's going from Los Feliz into there was, not fun. Or actually at the time it was Beverly Hills I lived in, but it was driving down to Santa Monica was never fun, especially if I was coming from Burbank a lot of the time because I was coming from NBC. But it wasn't good. Not fun. And so then I got a job working in DVD special features. My friend Michael Pellerin called me up and said, hey, how would you like to come work? We're making DVD special features. And I'd worked in home video as a retailer, and I'd done a little bit of special features work already. And I'm like, that sounds great. And the first project I got to work on to make special features for was Disney's Fantasia. We did the DVD box set of Fantasia and Fantasia 2000. And I'm like, this is what I want to do. So I did that for on and off. I mean, I got to produce movies. Like I produced the Agent Cody Banks movies and Hills Run Red. But for 10 years, I started making, and I was going overseas, 14 months in New Zealand on Lion, the Witch, and Wardrobe. Before that, Lord of the Rings, X-Men, X-Men 2, going up to Vancouver, the set of X2 to shoot behind the scenes stuff. It was great. Why would I want to do anything else? Why struggle trying to get another indie project made when I'm working for the studios on giant movies? And as a fan, I got to sit there with cameras and walk up to anybody and interview people. And, I basically did that for 15 years. The last DVD project I worked on was our Hills Run Red in 2020 during the pandemic. But it was a great time. Do I want to direct again? Yes. Yes, I do. And I now have a script that I've written, and I have another script that I haven't written that I would really like to direct. And maybe it's because, hey, I've seen a way that I can get into directing again by having something that appeals to people now, which you'll hear if you listen to True Noir. That is the beginning steps of that. But now you have to have an IP, and I'm working with somebody who they've already seen their work adapted as Road to Perdition. They had one of their book series done as a streaming show for Cinemax, and there's 19 Nathan Heller novels. So yeah, and if all I'm going to do is audio dramas first, that's fine too. I'm very proud of the audio dramas. I can't wait to do more. So anyway, Hollywood. I look at William Shatner on his birthday, and I think to myself, he reinvented himself almost every decade. He stands, the fact that he won 2 Emmy Awards late in his career, when he was deep into his 70s and 80s, and the fact that he still is going like an Energizer bunny. I look at him and I relate to him. I relate to his career. And the idea is, if you really like to create things, and I do, whatever it is, whether it's DVD special features, whether it's audio dramas, whether it's movies, like independent films like Tango Shalom and White Devils. I put 5 years of my life in Tango Shalom, and a lot of people would say, why would you do that? And I'm like, because if I didn't, it wouldn't exist. So, and it exists. And I'm proud of Tango Shalom. We had a really lucrative deal in Germany. It was opening in 50 theaters or 50 cities across Germany. On October 5th, then Israel gets invaded by Hamas. All the anti-Semitism that's always existed in the world is suddenly okay to flaunt on the streets of Germany again. And they decide, nope, we're killing your German TV deal and we're pulling your movie from theaters. Bummer. Can't win. But you know what? Tango Shalom exists. Now it's called Forbidden Tango. Because of the virulent anti-Semitism around the world, we had to change the title of the film to make it less Jewish, as if we could make the movie less Jewish. Never would have thought that would have happened. That was not on my 2020s bingo card, that this movie that anti-Semitism would rear its ugly head around the world, and suddenly it would be okay to just openly hate Jews. And this movie I worked on for 5 years, it's about a Jewish family, and the Pope blessed it because of its interfaith message, and it won the audience award at an Islamic film festival in Rabat, Morocco, a comedy film festival. I never would have thought that after October 7th, the little movie I worked on for 5 years would become basically worthless. You just never know what's going to happen. But you know what? I'm proud of that movie too. It got made. And, it's not fucking Star Wars, but it was something that I was deeply involved in. I was the VFX supervisor. I was the editor. I produced it. I voiced Moses. So there you go. An entertainment industry career is not for the faint at heart. And it's not for people that demand affirmation. I mean, being an actor is a whole different thing. I'm talking about if you want to be in the trenches, you want to write, you want to direct, you want to produce. The great thing about it is you don't need anyone else. You need other collaborators to work on a project. You can't do it yourself. But you can go make that happen on your own. You don't have to wait for anybody's permission. Look at Spike Lee's movie, She's Gotta Have It. He went and made that on his own, found that money and went and made that movie. And luckily he was a talented guy. And Hollywood came a-calling. And his third movie was Do the Right Thing. And be like Spike. My biggest advice to people in the entertainment business is you got to make it happen on your own. You cannot expect anybody to give you anything. And be as resilient as William Shatner has been throughout his career. And find many things to do and many things that you enjoy. So on this occasion of William Shatner's birthday, I just thought I would ruminate on that. I know it's another rambling late night stream, but what are you going to do? Jason Webster says a life in entertainment is worth it. It was going to cinemas to see films that helped to shake me out of grief and devastation of losing my father and return to normal routine, life, and happiness. That is the power of cinema. That is the power of great storytelling. Unfortunately, the business has become all about commerce and less about art, although streaming shows can be a little bit more artful because they're not so they don't rely on necessarily income. They just need subscribers. Major Chai Chai says, Rob, I've said it before and I'll say it again. I'm proud of you for the True Noir audio drama. Congratulations. Well, thank you, Major Chai Chai. You've been a big supporter of the show in every way, and I very much appreciate that. And I'm sure if it makes its way into other incarnations, you'll be a part of it. So thank you. I very much appreciate that. And I think I've got, let me just make sure that I'm caught up. I think I'm all caught up. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. What do you guys, if you have questions about these kinds of things, please don't hesitate to go down to the comments and do them. I mean, what's really interesting too is here's another thing. So crisis medicine, this thing that I've been doing, we started it in 2017. It's now 2025 and I'm incredibly proud of crisis medicine. Working with Mike, working with an old friend who's a former Green Beret and an ER doctor. And we've made, if you go to crisis medicine, tactical casualty care, if you look it up, you can see what we're doing. And it's been lauded all over the world. And people have thought that, I watch a lot of these medical lecture shows and they were not very impressive. And so I wanted to do something different. And I, direct it. I used to edit it, but Lori, Mike's wife's editing because I just don't have time to edit 50 hours of stuff. But I kind of designed I was the production designer, I was the cinematographer, and I directed it. And 8 years later, we're doing more, going up to Portland, doing more this week. Maybe I'll catch something at the Hollywood Theater. You never know. But on that note, I've got other things to read. I've still got some artwork that was sent to me to show, framed artwork by a great artist. Major Chaitai has letters too, but I'm going to let this one, I'm going to leave this here, and hopefully you got something out of it. Happy birthday, Bill Shatner. It's no longer his birthday anymore. It's now March 23rd. I will be back tomorrow night with the Robservations. I'm going to try and do one tomorrow night, Monday, then I'm gone. So I know I've not done many shows this month, but I've just been trying to finish True Noir and get it done. Anyway, on that note, I want to say thank you to Tom Jr. Jackson. And I'll be back with Dieter tomorrow. Dieter's going to be your Huckleberry as we talk about Tombstone in 4K. Woohoo! But anyway, Tom Jr. Jackson and all the moderating staff here, I want to thank you guys for doing the great job that you do. So thank you. And thanks for everybody that supports this channel via Super Chats and tips and memberships. We'll probably won't have a member call for a couple of weeks, only because I'm gone. But maybe I'll be back and we might do a member call, I don't know, next Sunday or something. We'll figure something out. And on that note, True Noir, I don't know when the last 2 episodes are going to be out. It's a little tough because my audio facility that I've been working at for years and years and years is being dismantled. A real estate developer it's in an old Victorian house, bought the Victorian house by Mike McDonald and his lovely wife, Robin, who took me to JPL once for my birthday. They're moving, and they're moving up north, and they're moving the facility. So I have to get it done as soon as possible. But anyway, on that note, episode 9, The Guilty Party is great, and episode 10, the happy ending, the first 10 minutes, they'll make you cry. If you can cry from an audio drama, they will. And on that note, every person you meet has a story to tell that you have yet to hear, and all you have to do is listen. And with that, I say to everybody, have a better night.